Hello, welcome to a special kind of video. Now, hopefully the audio will work. I think the audio will work. It worked last time, but um, let's look at this Twitter. Let's get hyped for his Umbrella Corps video. So right now it says, "I think you'll get a kick out of the thumbnail and title for the Umbrella Corps review." So, are you guys hyped? I know I am, and I already said that that way. Oh no, this is the first one. The game isn't that bad. Also, your reviews have little to do with hateful truth anymore. You don't even title your reviews that way. Instead it's just clickbait. Um, no, my general opinion of Umbrella Corps is that it's not the best game. It's not like, oh, this game is 10 out of 10 game. It's honestly, if I were to give it like if I were to rate it, I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10. 6 or maybe a 7 if I'm generous, if I'm like in a good mood. But let's look at these hot thumbnails. So you have not so mighty, but not so bad. Why is that a question? Not so bad? A fair Mighty Number 9 review. The fact that to me, if you have to say fair in your title, it's not a fair review. And it's very biased. I kind of want to do a video on that review, but maybe another time. But let's look at the thumbnail. Oh man, off top level thumbnails. You got like generic poop stains here because the game is shitty, right, guys? And then it's Operation Raccoon shitty because it rhymes with city. Oh my god, that is so funny. Stephen Colbert, Will Ferrell, Rick and Morty, Dan Harmon, Dino Stamatopoulos, all those people that make good comedic shows, subjectively of course. They're all dumb and hacks, and they're not funny. They're Matt Parker, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, hacks. Operation Raccoon Shitty, funny. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's hilarious. It's I'm laughing. I'm laughing so hard. It's like, yeah. It's so shitty. That's so phoned in. I have a kind of a shitty series on my main channel called Theo Explains, and that is also that is actually lazy thumbnails, and there's no I mean, but that's kind of the joke with the Theo Explains It series. I kind of explain things completely wrong. So I don't really care about the title cards, but I do kind of want to change that. I might want to do more unique. So the next Theo Explains It will have a more creative thumbnail because I'll be actually making it. But that's a whole other thing. So let's get started and watching this review. Now I'm gonna have to reposition this screen. I have to kind of resize it. Now I'm gonna resize it a little bit differently than I usually do because I want to capture the whole video, so let's get started with this awesome title. Now, I'm sorry if the audio is gonna be messed up, but I hope not. I will listen to the video at the end, obviously, but let's get on with it.
What is going on, everyone? Phil here for KOGaming, and it's time to once again explore the world of spin-offs. That's right, when your favorite game publishers and game developers take a tried-and-true AAA franchise and decide to take it and dilute it into a bunch of crappy side games that have absolutely nothing to do with the core franchise and are made solely for the sake of making extra money. Let's take a quick look back at early 2012 when a game called Operation Raccoon City was...
By the way, I did like Operation Raccoon City. I think it's not... The thing that made the Operation Raccoon City like my favorite Resident Evil game... Not my favorite. That's overselling. That's exaggerating. I'm being a little hyperbolic right now. Operation Raccoon City was just fun because it was a good co-op game. I played with a friend. It wasn't like great. It wasn't memorable, but it was actually pretty cool. And I liked the ending of it. It was a fun game. I genuinely had fun with it. There was a lot of problems. It was rough around the edges, but I think what I got out of it was a good experience. I think if they did a sequel to that game, I think it could have been better. I think it just needs some more fine tuning. Because the other things with these kind of titles that they're spin-offs, but just because they're spin-offs doesn't mean that they're bad. It just there could have been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. Like people who did Operation Raccoon City might have been rushing, or they might have been doing other games at the time. You never know. It's like if I play Legend of Korra, that Platinum Games title, and reviewed it and treated it as if it was an actual platinum game sale. It's just I knew it was gonna be a cash grab because it had Activision's name on it. It was a Nickelodeon game that was involved with it, but the overall game for what it was it was fun. I mean, it was base. It was a very basic game. It's like I mean I said multiple times that the Korra game is probably the best licensed Avatar game that they've released. I might have heard that there might be one other Avatar game that was good, but I think out of the ones that got the most attention, Korra was the best one. But let's continue.
Released by Capcom, which was supposed to be the integration of third-person action combat run-and-gun gameplay, similar to previous franchises such as SOCOM.
There was already over-the-shoulder action stuff in Resident Evil. It kind of started with 5. What it was really trying to incorporate in Operation Raccoon City was mostly tactical shooters like SOCOM. Not like okay.
Combined with the world of Resident Evil. What proceeded to happen was the clash of two universes that never should have been combined. A game that
two universes. Operation Raccoon City isn't a merge of two series. It's not a crossover. So and also this playthrough was awful. I haven't watched. I just saw the one with this is how you don't play of Operation Raccoon City. It was like 11 minutes long, and it was just nothing but Panda Lee whining the entire time. So, okay.
Had sorely very little content for a full $60 price tag. After playing it for around 5 hours, there was absolutely nothing left to do. It was repetitive, boring, uninspired, a complete and utter ripoff, and to make matters worse, it even tried to nickel and dime the consumer with pricey DLCs to get all the content that was already.
Yeah, the DLC was very pricey. I didn't like that at all. But yeah.
On the game disc. The game critically flopped, was a sales failure, and ultimately we hoped we'd never see this kind of thing again. And so, when it was announced that another third-person style shooter spin-off to the Resident Evil franchise would be released, the internet let out a collective groan of dismay.
Great images. I'm sure he searched very hard for these, but the thing with Umbrella Corps that I think people were rightfully pissed about was that this was during the 20th anniversary, and the first thing that they announced was this game. That's kind of shitty. It's like if Kojima came out during the 25th anniversary of Metal Gear, it was like, okay, guys, now we're gonna do Metal Gear Call of Duty. Okay, it's gonna be. It's like no one would want that. I mean, it's kind of a slap in the face to release this game that no one asked for on the 20th anniversary of Resident Evil, but but honestly, I kind of was also one of those people that kind of bashed it as well. I was like, oh yeah, this game's gonna suck. I really was dead set on not buying it, but then the price was good. Those $30, $40 for the deluxe. Once I kind of got over the fact that this isn't a survival horror game, I really started to dig what I was kind of seeing. Like there was some stuff in the game that I liked. I mean, I just went into Umbrella Corps not expecting a Resident Evil game. Even when you go to the game's title, Resident Evil isn't even the title. It's Umbrella Corps. Like Resident Evil isn't even like on the cover. But whatever.
At least in this regard, Capcom learned because Umbrella Corps is only being sold for $30 as a digital-only release, so at least they're not trying to rip you off for a full retail price like they did with Raccoon City. But is the game any good? Let's take a look. The premise of Umbrella Corps is simple. You're a living experiment or a lab rat hired by Umbrella to either kill off hordes of zombies or other human opponents in a controlled environment. And boy, does the
I like how he says you're a lab rat. Oh, that's the experiment. Okay, never mind.
Game love to drone that idea into your head as it says lab rat repeatedly in every voiceover no matter what mode of the game you're playing.
But they do the same thing in Revelations 2's raid mode because you are a lab rat in that because you're testing out the Red Queen's battle simulation.
Speaking of modes, there's a single player campaign if you can even call
it's not a campaign because this game wasn't supposed to have a campaign. It doesn't even have one. Really, if you I was watching some interviews the day that this game was coming out, and a lot of people were comparing it to Counter Strike. Not that saying that this is Counter Strike, guys, but they compare it in the sense that like it's a fast paced third person shooter. It's online only, like it's focusing on the multiplayer. Only the multiplayer. Like the multiplayer is like the focus of the game. So if you're going there for the single player, you're gonna be really you're wasting your money at that point if you're gonna buy it for the single player.
That in which you're basically completely by yourself inside of an enclosed environment. You're going to be tasked with killing a bunch of repetitive zombie enemies, collect their DNA samples, wash, rinse, and repeat. Every stage will unlock a new weapon. Eventually, zombies will start to come after you more aggressively, and you just have to survive within a certain time frame. The further you play into it, you'll unlock different enemy types, such as the dog, as well as other gun types. Basically, this single player is completely a waste of your time. You won't unlock anything significant by playing it. It takes about 90 minutes to complete, and it's utterly worthless. The meat of the game was obviously put into the multiplayer, and that's what the game designers are intending you to play. Now, unlike Operation Raccoon City, which tried to...
I like how anyone who had who you know kind of knows about this game knows that it's a multiplayer only game. Like every single person that watched the trailer understood that this was a multiplayer only game.
Whatever. Copy the gameplay of SOCOM. Umbrella Corps is trying to emulate some of the more popular cooperative buddy-style third-person shooters that have released in the past few years. You're going to have two modes. One mode where you only get one life, and once you die, that's it. Basically, it's down to the wire, whoever can survive in a 3-on-3 style elimination match. Another mode is called Multi-Mission, where it's actually going to be a playlist rotating between several different modes, some of which you know, such as Capture the Flag, only in this case it's a briefcase, Capture multi-briefcases, Standard Team Deathmatch where you have to capture items that your enemies drop when they die, a la Kill Confirmed from Call of Duty. There's also modes where you have to kill a bunch of enemies and zombies and collect DNA samples once they're dead, and then there's actually a mode where you can actually have to kill specialized monsters and zombies that have a lot of health and can actually insta-kill you. All in all, these modes are pretty much run-of-the-mill, and most of them you've played in other third-person shooter games, maybe with the exception.
Every multiplayer game that you play, honestly, have the same modes. Every single one. Even the multiplayer-only games. Like, the only game that is kind of... I mean, even Overwatch, it just doesn't have Team Deathmatch, I don't think. I'm sure someone's going to jump down my throat and correct me on that, but I know it has like escort the payload and all that kind of shit. But like but most online games have basic modes that has been in online games since
of the modes where you have to repetitively kill the zombies and pick up their samples. In this mode, you can respawn infinitely, so it's very much par for the course for this kind of third-person action game. And so really, when you're talking about the multiplayer of Umbrella Corps, that's it. There's only 2 modes, and ultimately each mode probably has...
By the way, he also tweeted, I don't know why I didn't show you that tweet, but he also said that, oh man, this review is a doozy. He's pretty much saying nothing that's like completely dumb or like completely like, this game is garbage, but we're only 4 minutes in. See, this is an issue with his reviews, that they shouldn't be over 10 minutes at this point, because right now, it's like you're waiting for the review, you're waiting for the score, because you already got the idea of what's going on. I mean, so what's going to be the other 10 minutes?
Around 6 or so maps. So really, once you've played through these once or twice, you've seen everything the game has to offer when it comes to modes and maps. So now let's break it down to the gameplay. Much like other popular third-person shooters, Umbrella Corps has a progression system based on experience points that you earn during gameplay and dependent on how well you do. Whether you have more kills, more objective captures, etc. will lead you to level up, which allows you to unlock new loadouts, new weapons, new customizations for your character, new colors, and all kinds of things that could make your character unique and different, and feels like you're advancing the more that you played the game. It's certainly nothing new, and honestly, the variety of weapons here isn't very varied. You get a couple different SMGs, a shotgun or so within the first few levels.
Also, the customization is kind of garbage too. Like, pretty much the basic outfit is the best outfit. It's not the best, and the way that the colors work is awful. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this game I really don't like. As far as customization goes, I enjoyed the gameplay of it. I like the multi-mission playlist. I love doing other missions. That stuff was fun, and I like the 3-on-3 setting, and I love the intensity. I mean, I do think that if it was 6-on-6, it would be better. Definitely. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to 6-on-6, but I mean, 3-on-3 is like it's okay, and the map sizes are fine. You know, it's like I kind of like this game. It's not, you know, anything remarkable, and it's not like, oh, it's the masterpiece of gaming and all this kind of shit. But it's a fun game. I mean, if you don't really care about $30 and you just want a dumb game just to kind of fart around in, this is your game. Unless you're Phil and you actually care about winning. I mean, then you're not gonna like this game.
All the customizations for your character are absolutely laughable because they pretty much make your character stick out. I mean, if you do anything but the standard black armor color or any of the camos, for example, metallic shine or the neon colors that look cool at first, you soon realize that you're a sitting duck. People can see you out in these maps are way easier if you use these colors, making the unlockable colors completely and utterly worthless in multiplayer. You're gonna want to just stick with your base.
But like the multiplayer in Umbrella Corps isn't a stealth game. Like you could honestly play Umbrella Corps and not be stealthy. Like, you know, it's not a stealth game. When I play the game, you can easily tell the the opponents. It's so easy. The colors are the last thing you're gonna think about. I mean, yeah, it kind of makes you stick out, but it's really easy to pick out the humans in Umbrella Corps. So the colors are just kind of eh.
Stuff and never actually veer from the original loadout so that you can have.
I mean, again, if this was like Metal Gear Online, then yeah, I could kind of see it because Metal Gear Online at least has some reward for stealth. Like if you played Metal Gear Online 3 at least, and you sneak around, you can actually get decent amount of kills because you're sneaking around. So that game kind of rewards that. But this game isn't using that. It's not using stealth. It's not. That's not the point of this game.
A little bit more stealth capabilities. The game is pretty much run and gun. You can take cover behind different areas, you can peer around corners, you can crawl through vents and corridors in order to get from point A to point B, and a lot of the maps actually have multiple floors and levels. It's pretty cool because some of the maps here are very reminiscent and or taken directly from the Resident Evil series, including being inside and outside the Raccoon City Police Department, being in an African-style village from Resident Evil 5, or that town of the Las Plagas from Resident Evil 4. The Antarctic mission is there from Resident Evil Code Veronica. So there's a lot of stuff here that directly references Resident Evil games. The problem is, there really is nothing much outside of that that's unique about the game, despite the zombies and monsters being there, so let's talk a little bit about that. So the undead are a constant part of the gameplay of Umbrella Corps, because at least visually they're always there. No matter where you look, you're probably going to be able to see a zombie shuffling around, or an undead dog, or a hyena, or some kind of a creature that's wandering around the map while you're progressing objectives. The problem is they really don't affect matches much altogether at all. In fact, you have on your person what's called a zombie jammer. Don't ask me how that works, because you think they would have used it in a Resident Evil game if it actually existed, by which zombies and the undead will not attack you. It's almost like they don't even know you exist. So unless you actually accidentally shoot a...
You know, the thing is that with the zombie jammer is a great tactic. It's not a, I mean, it doesn't change the tide of battle. It's not like, oh yeah, if you're losing and you shoot the enemy zombie jammer, it's going to magically make you win. But it's also, like, you could use that as in your advantage. You can, like, shoot the jammer, and then, like, you know, they're going to obviously turn around because you're shooting the jammer. You know, you can, like, book it, so then all the other zombies are going to horde over them. I mean, it adds a level of strategy. I mean, it's kind of dumb, but again, you're not playing Umbrella Corps for the non-existent story.
Zombie, or you get shot yourself and your zombie jammer gets damaged, the undead are never a factor in a matchup. You can completely ignore them, and you'll never have any kind of an influence on the outcome of a competitive match. Now, there's a few exceptions. Like I said, if you shoot a zombie, you'll actually anger it and it'll come after you, and sometimes you'll be trying to shoot an opponent, accidentally shoot a zombie, and next thing you know, a couple zombies that you clipped come after you and start eating you, and it could be a little bit of a hindrance. In addition, if you get shot, but you survive and escape your enemy, you might might have your jammer damage. Now that means that any nearby enemies are going to sniff you out, a la the Resident Evil games, and come after you. This is kind of a unique element because I've never played a third-person shooter before where you're on the run not only from enemies who are trying to kill you with guns, but then also the undead sometimes of, get alerted to your presence and are chasing after you. It could be a pretty neat thing to land a hit on an enemy, run away, and then you find out a couple seconds later they actually died because a mob of undead jumped on top of them and they were unable to help themselves. It is kind of something cool, and it's a cool gimmick that actually, for at least the first few rounds that you're playing, may grab your interest and make the game feel kind of unique in that regard. The gunplay and combat of Umbrella Corps is pretty standard and nothing much to write home about. You're going to have your primary weapon by which you can hip fire, you can look down the sights for better zoom and a little bit more damage and more accuracy. You can shoot around cover so that after you take cover you can actually do blind fire or peek over cover to get a little bit more accuracy as well. You're going to have your secondary loadouts such as grenades or GPS tracking devices.
I'm surprised you didn't say this, but the cover system in this game is really bad. It's actually... Everyone kind of complained about Operation Raccoon City's cover system. This is the worst one because you have to actually aim the cursor or something to the wall, press X, and then once you're there, you have to I've had so much trouble just breaking cover sometimes. I mean, it's easy, just it's supposed to be easy where you move and you press X, but sometimes you don't. It's just doesn't flow very well, and they could have done a better thing. Honestly, I just feel like sticky wall cover is better, or just when you get near a wall, hold down a button. But whatever.
These are motion detectors that'll help you out in a map, especially if you're trying to track down one remaining person on the opponent's team. Things like that you unlock over time can be pretty useful. But all of it is pretty standard fare and exactly what you've done in other third-person shooters before, except for the melee combat, which is pretty unique.
He still says that funny. Melee.
You pull out this giant looking sword, almost like a glaive kind of a deal. It glows and actually heats up if you hold down the attack button, and when you release it, you'll do this crazy lunging stab that leads to a crazy execution style instant kill that's gory. It's unique, it's different, it's something that's unique to this game, at least from what I've seen, and it really, for the first few hours of gameplay, you're going to have a lot of fun trying to sneak up on opponents and execute them from all different directions. It's a lot of fun in that regard. So I've described the game to you, now let's talk about my experience with it. When I first booted up Umbrella Corps, I gave the single player campaign a shot for about a half an hour. I became incredibly bored with it and realized there's no reason to play it. This game was designed primarily for multiplayer, so I jumped right in. When I did, I was actually pleasantly
He jumped right in 30 minutes after playing this thing. Okay.
surprised. There were a few glaring problems with the game from the get-go, but once I kind of got past them, I actually had some really silly fun for about an hour and a half as I played this game online with random people. Trying to eliminate them and being the last man standing on my team added to a lot of tenseness and suspense, and also trying to rush around, taking care of the objectives with infinite spawns, and actually seeing all the different places that were very reminiscent, if not to a T, representations of stages from the Resident Evil franchise actually added to my enjoyment. So for the first couple of hours of my playing Umbrella Corps, I actually thought the game was pretty poor, but it was a forgivably silly, fun kind of experience. Yes, the frame rate constantly fluctuates from a smooth 60 silky frames per second all the way down into the single digits whenever you get into a crazy
single digits? Are what? Dude, I played this game. He exaggerates these frames so bad. They never go that low. I mean, if it's 60, it might lowest be 30, but it never went to the part where it's I don't know, it just didn't drop that bad. It was still a smooth experience. I mean, the only thing that you might have is that the animation's kind of choppy, but these aren't to me at least, they're not breaking deal breakers to me. I've played worse games than this, so I know how bad this game could have been, but whatever.
firefight of a bunch of people. It's absolutely unacceptable for a current gen game to do that, and it really hurts when you're trying to get that last kill or you're in a huge firefight with a bunch of enemies when the frame rate makes the game basically unplayable. But at the same time,
unplayable. Oh my god.
it's just so much silly fun to be killing these zombies and running around getting cool instant kill executions, fighting the Las Plagas while other people are shooting at you and throwing grenades from across the map. It really just feels like a unique gaming experience. And then I came back on day 2 and it had completely changed. After only 24 hours of being released...
Yeah, it changed because people started to get good at the game and learned its mechanics. The only thing I will say is that the cleaver is kind of broken because it has a huge range, which is ridiculous. And you also have like a shield when you bring it out. Like, it leaves their body exposed, but it's such a huge range that, like, if you're shooting them trying to keep them back and they get you in your range, just be a little bit, you're dead. So I don't like that. I really don't. The only thing that's nice about the cleaver is that if you have a cleaver as well, you can actually like kind of counter it and you can like deflect it. So it's not completely bad. It's not like you're completely hopeless with it, but it's just kind of like if you're shooting all these people and then like a guy with a cleaver comes, you know, you do have to press L1, but it's by the time you get your cleaver out, you're already dead.
Players had already horribly broken Umbrella Corps, found all the crazy abusable stuff, and turned the game into an unfun, uncompetitive mess. First off, the more you play, the more you unlock, and ultimately people are going to find the best loadouts, but within 24 hours, everyone had equipped these motion control trackers, so as soon as you're trying to find someone on a map, it makes it so easy, you can actually see them through walls. Once you get that item, you're never going to want
motion control tracker, huh?
Anything else. It's incredibly overpowered. Hip fire, it sucks. It does almost 0 damage in this game, especially because the frame rate keeps dipping whenever you fire at something. Chances are you're gonna miss, and it does so much less damage than looking down the sights that hip firing and even...
Dude, like, the hip firing is pointless. I mean, you're supposed to spray and pray with that, and then when you get closer to an enemy, as you're getting closer to them, you're gonna go in the sights because you're already kind of softened the blow, and then when you go into the sights, you're gonna kill them. Like, you're supposed to kind of mix the two. Ugh, come on. Like, that's why, like, when you go in first person, you move. You still move at the same speed. You don't lose speed, you don't lose momentum. When you go from hipfire to this, it's such a quick transition that, like, whatever.
Doing kind of blind cover fire is completely and utterly worthless. There were a few times when I should have got double or triple kills, but my hip fire did so little damage that I just got slaughtered by someone looking down the sights. It's utterly unbalanced and a complete joke. But by far, the absolutely worst thing about Umbrella Corps are the melee attacks. They instantly kill every single time. To make matters worse, they're almost undefendable. The only way to avoid one is if you were also going for a melee attack at exactly the same time as your opponent, by which you'll clash, bounce off of each other, and then you'll both get a second chance to try to...
The timing with the cleaver isn't that specific. Like, as soon as you see him charging at you and you just and you have the thing equipped and you press the button, you're gonna deflect it. It's not. There's no timing to it. It's not like a fighting game where you have to time each counter.
Execute each other with a melee attack. They also teleport across rooms through items and walls and cover. There were numerous times when I had maybe 2 or 3 zombies or monsters between myself and a human who was running in the room. They would activate a melee attack, teleport through the room, and insta-kill me. It's incredibly overpowered. It's incredibly unbalanced. It's broken as shit. I can't believe the game developers didn't know that the melee attacks were completely and utterly unfair. It actually got to the point that on certain maps, people were in such an enclosed space, they would put away their guns and only run around using these knives because they were so incredibly overpowered. If you actually wanted to play the game like you should be playing it like a shooter, you lost no matter what by default.
But the thing is that, like, if you go as a team, these cleavers aren't going to be a problem because there'll always be people shooting at them, and it's you gotta use teamwork, Phil. Like, you have to adapt to that. Like, you know that they're gonna use cleavers. You know that.
It's pathetic. It's really poorly designed.
But I do wonder if he's gonna ever mention that the developers could always patch it. They could always patch to fix it. They could fix it. I mean, now will they or are they? Who knows? Who can say? But they can. They have the technology.
And I just can't believe it. In addition, I just can't help feeling the game feels like it's either unfinished or unpolished. I mean, just when you're walking...
It's, to me, it's honestly, it's unpolished. I don't think it's unfinished. I don't think it's incomplete or it's not finished. I just, well, I mean, I guess it's not finished if it's not polished, so I guess it's both. Uh, but yeah, it's just, it did need a little bit more time in the oven before, uh, they took it out, and it's like, oh yeah, it's done. This isn't actually a bad review. I will give Phil credit for that. I just think that the title is fucking stupid. I really don't even think you needed a clickbait for this, because I think anyone who was even like mildly interested would have watched this review, to be honest.
Across the floor. You're walking in such a weirdly, just robotic, smooth movement. What human walks like that? I mean, we added in kind of camera bob and stuff to games a decade ago. And the fact that it's not in Umbrella Corps is just kind of astounding.
It would be awful if it had camera bob. It would just be more of an eyesore. Like, I probably honestly, if it had like jiggle cam, I probably would have stopped playing, and I probably would have really been pissed I burned money on this game. But the fact that I didn't is fine, because there's so much going on screen. To add camera bob to it is fucking ridiculous.
Feels like you're hovering over the ground rather than actually touching it with your feet. The fact that the frame rate fluctuates so ridiculously constantly every time.
He's repeating himself at this point. He's going over the same points he said. Wow.
Time you get into a major fight, especially if there's zombies or dogs involved,
You said this.
All of a sudden you lose track of what's going on and you can't get a beat on anything because the frame rate dips into the teens or lower. It's completely unacceptable.
He sounds like he's about to cry, like, or he's like very angry. Is he taking his anger about not getting a Wolverine toy on video games? Probably.
Competitive shooter in this day and age that they couldn't get the frame rate right. And it certainly isn't because there's a massive amount of detail in the graphics or anything like that. I mean, you can tell that they kind of skimped on every single corner and cut every single shortcut into...
It's obviously a budgeted title. It's not a full-fledged... Dude. It's hilarious now. Now that I'm like thinking about it, he said in Mighty Number 9, the budget doesn't matter. But here, oh, now the budget matters. But then if you probably if you confront him about that, he's probably gonna say, well, this is from Capcom and the other title is from an indie developer, even though Inafune is like a big name, personally because he made the Mega Man games, but whatever, that aside, it's just like, you're talking about budget, and you said budget didn't matter in Mighty Number 9. Like, to go from Mighty Number 9 to this, it's so two-faced. Because he's, in one review, he's saying that, oh, I'm playing the game for what it is, and this game's like, well, I'm playing the game for what it is, and the frame rates are bad. It's like, you're playing a budgeted title. You went in, like, what expectation did you expect? I expected, apparently it's 60 frames, I was expecting 30, to be honest. I was expecting it to even dip in the singles, and it never did. And it was actually a lot of fun. I actually had fun with that game. And by the way, I'm not saying it's because it's fun because I body people in the game. I get destroyed every time I play the game. Don't get me wrong. I'm not the master of Umbrella Corps, but I still have fun with it because it's a fun game. Just because I don't get like more than one kill doesn't mean it's not a fun game. I had fun. I mean, there are times where I make it to 14 kills and all that, and I make 14 deaths as well. But like, I still have fun with the game because it's fun for what it is.
To this game to get it released, I don't understand how it's not optimized to run at a steady frame rate so you can actually play the game. And then, of course, the melee attacks are absolutely unacceptable. In any game where you're going to instantly kill someone if you're even remotely near them, no matter what circumstance, no matter what's between you and them, that's a joke. There were actually times when I had my gun drawn, beat it on someone, was firing directly into their head, they teleported through my bullets, and insta-killed me.
By the way, I wonder if you noticed that when they have the cleave out, they do this, so that you can't get a headshot, which I think is kind of silly, but... yeah, they're blocking bullets.
That's
on their
bullshit.
head.
And initially this game is fun for a few hours, but then when you finally try to play and maybe get a little bit better at the game, and you realize how bad of a game it actually is, you just have to shrug and say, what a piece of fucking donkey shit.
What? So once you get good at the game, you're gonna say, man, this game sucks. What? Okay, Phil. Whatever you say.
And so I really hate to
Says the guy that had shitty stats, shitty ratios in this game, and oh, okay.
report it after playing Operation Raccoon City and getting completely ripped off and paying $60. I've now paid $30 for a.
But Phil, people paid the amount they paid for Mighty Number 9 to the amount of like that added to $4 million, and you said that that didn't matter. Those people who felt ripped off doesn't matter. $4 million is background noise.
Discount bargain basement style competitive shooter game of which I've played about 4 hours of gameplay of and I will never touch again. Umbrella Corps is a piece of fucking shit. This game should never have been made. It has so many flaws that have been solved a decade or more ago by very similar style games. You can tell they did not have a big production budget. The game was obviously rushed and or they cut tons of corners to get this out to market. It's not very fun in the first few initial hours. I'll be honest with everyone here. I can't recommend you play it. I can't recommend that you even touch it unless it ever goes free. If you're like a PSN or Xbox Live subscriber and they've got those free-to-play games during the month, then maybe for a laugh, download it and play it. But don't spend any money on a stinker like this. You could go to your bargain bin at your local game shop and pick up any third-person shooter game. It's gonna feel better than this. If anything, the only little inkling of fun that you can get is playing a third-person shooter in a Resident Evil reminiscent stage. Like, I really liked playing on an Antarctic stage or the Las Plagas village from these different Resident Evil games, but once that kind of nostalgia factor weared off, I just didn't want to play this broken piece of crap anymore. So all things considered, the fact that you only get a little bit of enjoyment out of it, the single player is completely and utterly fucking worthless. The online multiplayer has a
Why? What did you throw the grenade for? There was no one there.
terrible fluctuating frame rate that makes it unplayable.
Oh, I guess the frame rate tricked him into throwing his grenade there.
The jokishly bad walk animations, the insanely overpowered melee attacks, hip fire that's completely and utterly useless. I give Umbrella Corps a 3 out of 10.
3 out of 10. Oh man, that is ridiculous. I can't believe he gave this game a 3 out of 10. I mean, like, look, yeah, this game is a fucking masterpiece, and it's not like a 3 out of 10. A 3 out of 10. Dude, this is coming from the guy who gave, like, I almost want to watch Star Fox Zero review because of this, but I kind of don't want to, but man, I'll probably do Star Fox another day, but oh my god, 3 out of 10.
It's functional, but it's a laughable joke. Skip this petrified dog turd and go play something else that's worth your time.
It's functional. So 3 out of 5, 3 out of 10, okay.
Another shitty spin-off down. Thank God.
Oh my god. So yeah. Wow. Okay, actually, no, know what? I feel happy with you guys. I will watch Mighty Number 9. I knew this would be shit. The best Resident Evil will always be Resident Evil 4, by the way. You know what? Screw it. I'm not getting. Ugh. Hold on. Wasn't expecting a resident. Okay, there you go. Now let's watch this Mighty Number 9. Fuck it. Let's do it.
What's going on, everyone? Phil here for KO.
I really hope that the audio is not fucked up. If I find out the audio is fucked up, I'm gonna
KOGaming, and I'm about to review Mighty Number 9. I wish I could just sit here and do this like a normal review and not have to tell you about the sordid tale of how this game came to pass, but sadly, I find myself surrounded by so much pre-existing negativity, misconception, and just
the king of hate, saying I'm surrounded by negativity, and crap, I can't remember what I was gonna say. Oh, and just get back in your mind about the Tim Schafer thing. Just remember the Broken Age thing. He did a whole rant video about that. So, yeah.
Overall bad feelings about the game as I sit down to film my own review, that I feel that I have to cover the background so you understand the situation surrounding the game before I finally share my thoughts on it. So here we go with the backstory of the development of Mighty Number 9. Meet Keiji Inafune, the creative director and creator of Mega Man and Rockman over the years. In the 1980s,
You see, Mega Man and Rockman? What's Rockman?
and early 1990s, Mega Man was huge. Publisher Capcom pumped out our 2D side-scrolling friend in many different versions and many different iterations on various consoles, starting with the Nintendo Entertainment System.
We don't really need a backstory on Mega Man. This isn't Mega Man. This is Mighty Number 9. Come on, Phil. Cut to the chase.
And/or Famicom, spanning 3 to 4 console generations and basically becoming synonymous with a AAA title within gaming culture. Then the 2000s happened, and for whatever reason, publisher Capcom decided not to make any more Mega Man games, leaving rabid fans angry, and just basically wondering why this classic gaming character was being ignored by...
Pretty sure there was some Mega Mans in the 2000s. Just saying, but, Mega Man, people were mostly mad about Mega Man Legends 3's cancellation. That was a ridiculous cancellation. Oh, no one wanted it, even though everyone wanted it. Okay, Capcom.
The gaming publisher. It actually got to the point where Twitter accounts for Capcom were blatantly insulting fans, saying it was their fault that no other Mega Man games were being made, and
it's talking about Mega Man Legends 3 right here. But Phil is not even addressing that it's Mega Man Legends 3. He doesn't say Mega Man. Like that's not what this whole thing is about. But whatever.
Keiji Inafune finally had enough. He left the company and decided to go out on his own, starting up a new startup in Japan, a new venture to create the spiritual successor to the Mega Man series.
Successor.
In a game that would be called Mighty Number 9, but he needed help, and so he put his game up on Kickstarter to revolutionary results.
What is this image?
Okay. Mighty Number 9.
Well, I mean, I guess he pulled it from his Kickstarter, but jeez.
Overnight became a Kickstarter sensation and basically a success story which Kickstarter to this day uses to convince other game developers to come and raise funds on their site. Originally only seeking to raise $900,000 budget, the game eventually reached over $4 million. Unprecedented and absolutely out of control. The entire situation was a razz in the face of Capcom by longtime Mega Man fans. Hey, if Capcom's gonna blame us for the reason that Mega Man won't come out with a new game, let's just fund the actual creator of the game to go ahead and make the spiritual successor and screw Capcom. And that's basically what happened. However, how much success is too much success? Because as Mighty Number 9 raised more and more and more money on Kickstarter, and it exceeded goal after goal, the game devs kept adding stretch goals, such as, let's do a challenge mode, let's have a boss rush mode, a new game plus mode, let's have online capabilities, let's port this game to every single console possible, including not only the Xbox 360 and PS3, but the PS4, the Xbox One, the Wii U, handhelds, you name it. Game devs promised the world for every little bit amount of money that was raised. And
that is ridiculous. That is like, I honestly right here I probably would have stopped at single player call stage and boss. But see that could be fun. That could stop right there. The other one is okay, but online battle race mode.
At the end of it, they had really promised so much that I think they actually had a big problem delivering. And if you want any kind of concrete proof of that, the game was delayed after delay after delay for reason after reason, twice supposedly because they could not get the online implementation to actually work, and finally this week the game was released to the public. So, all of that is a huge and sordid backstory. It's a lot of reason for people to be upset, especially
3 minutes,
one of
4
the
minutes.
financial backers of this game on Kickstarter, and you ended up waiting for a game that was originally supposed to come out sometime 2 years ago, then last year, then again this year, and you're waiting and waiting. Oh, and by the way, The launch of the game has been a disaster. Kickstarter backers are supposed to be getting codes in the mail. Their codes don't work. People who bought the game on the Wii U are reporting that the game is actually bricking their consoles.
Pretty sure that I read on Twitter. So they said that that didn't happen.
There's a ton of problems with the launch of Mighty Number 9 after this long and problematic development process. So it's easy to see why there's so much controversy on the internet and why so many people are upset about the entire thing, especially because with $4 million being raised, the game developers promising, oh, not only are we going to do this, but if the game's successful, we're going to have an anime series, and we're going to have tie-ins, and we're going to have a sequel. And then the game finally launches with all of these technical problems. You can basically understand why there's such an uproar. So because of all of this negativity regarding the development and launch of Mighty Number 9, it's very hard right now on the internet to hear anything whatsoever positive about the game. In fact, just searching Google, good luck finding anyone who's not completely slamming it. But what does that have to do with the actual game itself?
What? What does people talking about the game have to do with the game itself? I don't know, Phil. I mean, well, I guess if you're gonna start criticizing a game, that's not relevant to do with what the fuck is this point?
And the honest, logical answer here, nothing. I don't care about the development process. I don't care about the Kickstarter investment. I don't care about.
You don't care about all that stuff, but you care about it in the Umbrella Corps video, you care about it in Star Fox Zero, you care about it in Uncharted 4, you care about it in Doom, you care about it in every single game. It does matter, because guess what, Phil? People spent up to $4 million. I mean, they didn't pay $4 million, but the sums added to $4 million, and they got this. There have been games that have less budgets than this game that look better. Look, we'll go on a little field trip. Indiegogo, Indivisible. If you haven't supported this game, support it. It's the best. It's gonna be the best RPG. I tell you what. This has 1,943,595 US dollars supported. Now, hopefully, fingers crossed, we reach the full VO for all major characters. So, guys, please donate. This is a great thing, and they have prototypes. They have demos. They have a demo on PS4. They have it on Mac, Linux, Windows, Steam, all this kind of stuff. You can. I have it on my Mac, back before they have it on, way before they put it on PS4, and it's so good. It's a really good side-scrolling RPG. I really loved it. It's in the same art style as Skullgirls. The reason why it's so much is because this is Lab Zero's first game that they're making that's not freelance. When they did Skullgirls, they did that with freelance. That was a whole freelance job, and now they actually have a company and all that kind of stuff. So it's great. See, they made like $1 million, all this kind of stuff. They're almost up to $2 million, and their game looks really good. Hopefully, I mean, and they also release updates as well, which is great. They keep updating the stuff, like. It's great. It's really good. It's a really good Indiegogo thing to support. And Lab Zero has a good. This is their second game, but after Skullgirls, man. Okay, enough of that.
Any of that. I'm an objective gamer and reviewer.
By the way, you can tell I'm a huge Lab Zero fan because they just have the best artwork.
I purchased Mighty Number 9 earlier this week.
My avatar is a fucking Skullgirls character. I'm sorry, I keep...
On the PlayStation 4 for the cost of $19.99, I got a game that was delivered to me that basically was what the game devs were promising. A spiritual successor to the classic Mega...
You got what the game was promised, but these people who are saying that, the people who paid $4 million are saying that they didn't get the game that they promised. Oh, nothing. Absolutely nothing. They're background noise, but I paid $20 and I got what they promised me. So... See, Phil tends to defend scam artists because he's one of them. He probably saw this and said wow, Kenji Inafune got away with $4 million. I can aspire to do that. He aspires to be a scammer. Project 7, for example.
Man, gameplay. In some ways, this game evolved. In some ways, it's a step back. I really feel that this was kind of what Inafune wanted to do with his classic franchise. So right now, I'm going to objectively weigh...
Well, of course that's what Kenji Inafune wanted to do with his franchise. He made the game!
pros and cons of Mighty Number 9 for you without any of this background noise in my head.
Background noise that people got, you know, it was like saying, man, I wonder why this $4 million game that has $4 million that got poured into it looks worse than a game that has less. Like, come on, I've seen like Jason, the Friday the 13th game that they're doing. That was kickstarted, and that looks better than this. Now I don't know the budget it got. I don't know how much money it made on Kickstarter, but whatever.
Feel that's the only way to actually do an objective review, and I really don't feel that many people have done that up to this point.
You don't do objective reviews at all, Phil, and this is just a rant. You haven't even talked about the game yet.
Mighty Number 9 is the story of a world in peril. All of the robots that normally would be helping out and doing helpful things for humans
Look at this.
have gone absolutely haywire, and it's
The mouths aren't even moving. The flames look like Cheetos. Actually, no, it doesn't even look like Cheetos. It looks like Doritos and Cheetos. Like the color is Cheetos and the Doritos and the shapes are Doritos. So that's great. Look how lame this game looks, dude. This looks. I'm sorry.
Is a robot created by Dr. White, who has the unique ability to absorb
Dr. White.
capabilities and AIs of other robots after he stunned them with his arm cannon. So it's up to him to go throughout 8 different stages, fighting 8 other mighty robots, trying to take them over and stop their corruption in their programming by absorbing their AI so they can be reprogrammed, as well as trying to shut down any minor robots that are malfunctioning, which he might find along the way.
Wow, this boss
If
fight.
you're not really surprised.
Wow, this boss fight is like the best boss fight. He goes over here, he throws things, and you have to. Wow, what great boss fights!
And it seems familiar. It's probably because it's to a T the plot line of the original Rockman and Mega Man X series from the 1980s and 90s. I mean, they really heavily borrowed from that plot line. Can you blame Inafune for borrowing from himself? Not really. So the plot line of the game is very basic.
I like how I keep saying borrowing, like oh yeah, I borrowed, like oh man, I'm working on this comic. This is a storyboard of it. I'm by borrowing from Fargo, guys. I'm borrowing from them. What is this?
And there are going to be some cutscenes in between different stages that kind of flesh out the plot a little more. There are a pretty complex cast of characters with 3 or 4 different characters who seem like they could either
complex. Oh, okay. This probably would have been better if it was like done in like a 2D art style, like the cutscenes. You know, that's what made Skullgirl's story mode so enjoyable to me.
Good or bad, and there's a couple twists along the way. What it is what it is. It's a basic plot line thrown into what's meant to be a 2D side-scrolling action game. It's not amazing.
Dude, this looks like stuff that Rooster Teeth made. Like, did Kenji Inafune good? Because like, Rooster Teeth is doing like Ruby Chibi now. This looks just like that. It's the same art style and everything.
Certainly not terrible. It's just there, and it serves the purpose. So now let's talk gameplay. Mighty Number 9 actually takes a lot of things heavily from the previous Mega Man games, as well as implements some new things to give it a unique and modern twist and make it a little bit different. Beck has an arm cannon, which you can shoot. He also has a dash and a low dash by holding down in the dash button, as well as an air dash. This dash is infinite, meaning you can infinitely air dash back and forth in the air and basically stay up there almost the entire time. This is completely different from anything in any previous Mega Man game, and it definitely is a new kind of gameplay for a 2D side-scroller. The goal is to shoot things until they change color, then you'll dash into them, which will basically negate them, and Beck will gain some kind of a boost. If it's green, he'll get a speed boost. If it's red, his shots will actually become a little bit more powerful. If it's yellow, it means that if you have any kind of special gun or ability, that you'll have more of that energy for a limited amount of time, and so these abilities will actually help you during the course of the game. But I'll be honest with everyone, I don't think I ever actually planned or cared about what ability I was absorbing. The gameplay of Mighty Number 9 is wash, rinse, and repeat, shoot everything in front of you, dash into.
But remember, it was okay. It's not okay that Umbrella Corp was like that, but oh, this game, it's okay.
Do it when it changes color and keep on moving. There really is no kind of strategy. Oh, I need to shoot that one guy to get this damage boost so I can go down here and do something. No, none of that exists. You just run around dashing and shooting everything, trying to make difficult jumps, trying to dash across chasms with instant death spikes. All the stuff that you would expect from classic Mega Man style gameplay is in this game to a T. it doesn't really try to do anything too adventurous or different. In fact, during the boss fights against the 8 robot masters, you're going to be doing kind of a classic one-on-one battle by which they'll be using some kind of special abilities and you can use a strategy to beat them. Once you kill your first robot master, you'll absorb their power a la previous Mega Man and Rockman games, and you
Dude, these boss fights look so boring. They don't even look fun. They don't even look fun. Good job. Good job.
can then use that power in
$4 million.
your boss fights. For every power, there's one boss for that will be their weakness, and it basically completely negates their ability to do any kind of effective strategy in the fight, making it incredibly easy to win, and you can wipe the floor with them and then go on to the next stage. Mighty No. 9 actually takes this formula and makes it even more easy than previous Mega Man games where you kind of had to guess which ability would affect which boss, because when you actually load up the game to the new stage, there'll be a little box that says advice, and if that appears, it means that you've already defeated the Robot Master, who's the weakness for that stage. All you need to then do is go into the stage, and that Robot Master will actually help you out during the fight by doing something to change the stage. For example, in the ice stage, the Fire Master will go through it and melt a lot of ice things that may have been obstacles in your way, making the stage incredibly easy. And the final boss fight, which actually would have been a lot harder, also becomes more easy. And so, that formula of killing a master,
More easy. Easier. Say easier. Jesus.
figuring out whose weakness that master is, and then taking them on next, makes the actual original 8 masters of the game incredibly easy to coast through. What I will say is this: out of all the first 8 stages of the game, I'd say maybe 2 or 3 of them are a little bit more challenging than others. The air stage has a lot of aerial platforming that can lead to instant deaths. That's a little bit tricky, and the stage seems to be a little bit harder than the others. The fire stage had a few points that were challenging, and by far the ice stage is probably the toughest because it has ledges which you cannot grab. That is one new addition in Mighty No. 9 that should be called out. When you're actually doing platforming, Beck will actually grab the edge of ledges. Mega Man was never able to do this, but Beck can, and it's a modernization of the game engine. However, on the ice stage, there's lots of platforms where you can't do this. Since you're not expecting that, it's going to lead to tons of cheap deaths, and it probably is overall the most challenging of them. But I'll be honest with everyone, being that I've played all the classic Mega Man games, I understand the classic gameplay.
Being that I'm a huge fan
of the games, I was able to run through all 8 Robot Masters in about maybe 3 hours time, with only minimal amount of deaths and maybe having to restart a stage once or twice.
He's just jerking himself off like, look how good I am, guys. I'm so good at this game.
So for me, the game was almost overly easy, and by the way, I want to point out, I did not change the amount of stock lives that I had. I left it at the default 2, not upped it to 9 like a lot of people who are playing this game are doing. And I didn't do anything to kind of mess with the difficulty. I just kind of ran through the game utilizing the boss weaknesses, and I was able to beat the 8 Robot Masters pretty easily. I've heard a lot of people on the internet are complaining the game is too hard. I don't know where they're coming from, because as a base game, it's not that difficult at all, at least in the initial 8 stages. Now, once you beat those first 8 stages and you get to the final 3, we're talking a large difficulty spike. In one stage, you play as Roll, who doesn't
Call. Her name is Call, by the way. I haven't played Mighty No. 9, and I know that already.
even have most of the offensive capabilities of Beck, but is still expected to fend off enemies in different ways. There's one part of the stage where you have to hover and air dash through this spiky corridor that will insta-kill you if you even touch a spike. It's incredibly cheap and difficult, and it really annoyed the hell out of me. Similarly, another stage where you have to play as Beck has a similar style corridor with tons of instant deaths. It's not as hard as the one with Roll, but it's still kind of
Roll.
And then there's the final stage, which is almost a gauntlet of patience. You're going to be trying to dodge instant death spikes. You're going to be hovering over this giant pit where you need to use a propeller to get yourself across. By the way, a game mechanic you've never even used in the game up to this point. They really made it so that this final stage was a grueling challenge.
Dude, he's like talking like, like he's not taking any breaks when he talks. It's just non-stop talking. That is so. That's kind of unpleasant to listen to because he sounds like a robot because he's just talking nonstop like this. You know, don't you think that this is more annoying? And you have to pay attention to what you're saying. So I'm already tongue twisted because I'm saying it in unconscious thoughts over and over and over, and without taking any breaths or any concentration. But I'm focusing on what I'm saying because I'm trying to prove a point that this is kind of a dumb way to talk because you're not really focusing. Like, see, it's so fucking stupid. Just fucking relax, Phil.
2D platforming skill. I'm not going to spoil the final boss for you. It's already been all over the internet. But the final boss also is a gauntlet with multiple forms. And if you die to him too many times, you got to do this entire...
I like how he said that he doesn't know where people are coming from when they complain about how hard the game is. And now he's talking about how hard the game is. So he doesn't think that maybe people are when making that criticism, are talking about that part of the game that he's talking about right now.
Entire final stage over from the beginning. I had to do this about 4 times before I finally bested the final boss of the game. And all in all, if I didn't have to do that, I probably would have beaten it in about 20 to 30 minutes. Instead, it took me over an hour to beat this final stage. That was pretty annoying. As you're beating the campaign of the game, you'll also unlock extra content, which includes a challenge mode for single player, as well as a cooperative online challenge mode, an online competitive 2-player race mode, and a boss rush mode. All of these modes are new and interesting content for the game, especially if you really enjoy this.
Boss rush mode is very interesting content. Okay.
Style of gameplay, and you want to challenge yourself for certain things like dash through a stage through a certain period of time, but you can't use your blaster, kill a certain amount of enemies with a certain amount of time, but you can't lose any health. It's that kind of challenges. The boss rush mode is exactly what you would expect. You're going to try to fight all of the bosses back to back with only 2 full heals remaining, so it's pretty difficult to try to take out 9 bosses without ever having to die. It's challenging, and for those who like this kind of gameplay, it's probably going to be one of the things you're going to want to best. But the online modes, at least in my experience, were barely, if at all, functional on the PlayStation 4. I was only able to ever play one. It was the cooperative challenge mode where I teamed up with someone who controlled roll. We dashed through the stage, and predictably, the stage was incredibly easy because 2 players, both spamming guns all over the place, are able to destroy everything pretty much quickly, and we beat it in record time. It wasn't a challenge at all.
Dude, look at this. This other person is like playing around and he's just dashing forward. I mean, that guy was probably like, he might have got. I hate when I'm playing like a 2D scroller and that shit happens, where someone just speeds off and then I'm forced to be tethered to him, and it's just like, why, dude? I'm trying to enjoy the level. There's no need to rush, and like they delayed the game to fix the online, and then from what he's saying is that they barely fixed it. So. But he shouldn't focus on that, because that's background noise.
After that, I could never get another online capable match to work at all, neither in the competitive or the cooperative modes. So all those delays that Mighty Number 9 suffered trying to get these online modes working apparently didn't, because I'm sorry, I tried for over 20 minutes to get matches. I tried matches of the earlier sets, the later sets.
But I thought this was all background noise, Phil. You just said that you don't care about the development stuff.
That's the easier difficulty, the harder difficulty, and nothing worked. I don't know what's up with it. Maybe there's just no one playing it, but for me, the online just was not functional. Now let's talk graphics and sound, because a lot of people are criticizing it. And you know what? I kind of have to agree with you. As I played Mighty Number 9, I was definitely taken aback by the art style. I thought for sure that they would go for a more hyper-realistic look with lots of shadowing and all kinds of visual effects, and that's just not what they want.
Hyper-realistic? What do you mean by hyper-realistic? Do you mean like that they would have more depth or more shadows? Like what does that mean, hyper-realistic? What?
The best comparison I can make for this game is that it looks like the old classic anime series Astro Boy. And that's actually kind of funny because the original Mega Man was based on Astro Boy, so in a lot of ways that makes sense, but I'm not sure that's exactly what everyone was looking for the spiritual successor / continuation.
Successor. This guy can't fucking talk. This guy had... whatever.
I definitely have to say the visual style was not my cup of tea, and I do have to criticize it. Also, the music has always been a quintessential part of the Mega Man franchise. I can't really even think of a Mega Man game that I've ever played where after I played it, I wasn't caught humming a tune from the game, or it wasn't stuck in my head. You know, those Mega Man tunes.
This isn't a Mega Man game. Why are you, like... Man, I'm gonna buy Mighty Number 9. It's like me buying Indivisible and expecting it to be like Skullgirls. Like, it's not. I mean, I did back Indivisible because, I really trust Lab Zero because they've been a very good team lately. They did a lot of good. They did an amazing job supporting Skullgirls, in my opinion. In my opinion, the only thing that I have to criticize about Skullgirls is that we still have not gotten lobby support. Okay, I'm waiting for that, Lab Zero. I know you're watching this, but yeah, I'm not gonna buy Indivisible and be like, oh man, this isn't like Skullgirls. Where's the 2D act fighting? What?
Are some of the ones that lived with us for all of
No.
our lives. I could still, to this day, think of a few classic tunes from Mega Man 2 and 3 that are ingrained in my brain
Is he gonna sing it?
That never really happens in Mighty Number 9. The soundtrack's passable, but it's certainly nothing memorable. And after I've beaten the game, I realized besides the title theme, I don't think I remember any music from this game whatsoever. That is a huge dichotomy. So real
Dichotomy.
talk, for $20, if you purchase Mighty Number 9, you're going to get about a 3 to 5 hour long campaign featuring 8 robot bosses and 3 additional stages.
3 to 5 hour campaign for $20? That isn't even worth $20. That's like $15. But whatever. I mean, okay.
You're going to get challenge mode, boss rush mode, and a few online modes that may or may not even work for you depending on what console you purchased the game on. You're going to get graphics that are kind of questionable and music that really isn't memorable, tied in with some gameplay that does actually feel like a natural evolution of Mega Man, although things like the Mega Buster not being able to charge are definitely questionable choices and feel like it maybe went back a few steps. So it's a mixed bag. Now, if any other game told you for $20 you were going to get a game that plays similar to Mega Man and has awesome robot bosses and you're going to be able to play it and feel the nostalgia factor, you would probably be ecstatic. But because Mighty Number 9 raised $4 million on Kickstarter, people just want to crap all over it and say, well, that's not acceptable. For $4 million, it should have been a much better game with groundbreaking graphics and amazing...
Groundbreaking graphics. People were expecting what the fucking beta looked like. They played the beta and they were expected to look at least like that. And from what I've seen, it got downgraded. Where are these big expectations coming from? Like, dude. And it's
capabilities and blah, 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 blah. And the bottom line is, nothing factors into the review of that accord. Because this is a game for $20. I got 5 hours of gameplay, and if I really wanted to, I could go back and get more replayability out of it.
So he's pretty much saying that we should judge the game on the sale price that you buy it from, and not the amount of money that it is to make. Now, that is interesting, because in some arguments you can make that case. Like with $60 games. Like when you buy like a AAA game, you like, oh, $60, all that kind of stuff. But this was crowd-funded. It was, people who funded the game paid it. So it made $4 million. And if it doesn't look like a $4 million budgeted game, people are going to be pissed about it. Because I can tell you right now, I don't know off the top of my head, I don't know Skullgirl's budget was. I don't remember on the top of my head. But it looks like whatever budget that it promised, it delivered. Because it was a very robust fighting game. They supported it long after release. Well, not maybe long after release, but they supported it with 4 new DLC characters that they offered for free for 3 months and of each from each character's release, and then you would pay I think $5 per character, maybe $3. But I mean, again, these are indie devs that were freelance. This game was published by Deep Silver, a big company. Skullgirls, the vanilla Skullgirls, was done by Konami, and Konami treated that like shit. Honestly, I hated Konami way before the Kojima thing because of how they treated Skullgirls. But then they went to Autumn Games. How many games do you know is from Autumn Games? Yeah.
I purposely chose not to because I'm not the kind of person that likes to go back and play challenge modes and such. I compare this directly to Mega Man 9 and 10 from several years back, both of which were released digitally over the internet, and were kind of the same deal. They were natural advancements of the Mega Man franchise with new bosses, throwback games. They were sold for around $20, and guess what? Nobody.
But they weren't that much at launch, Phil. When that game came out, I doubt it was $20 or less. I doubt. Call me crazy. I mean, I guess I'm a skeptic that way, but no one complained because they didn't know the. I guess they didn't know the budget, but at the same time, it was a quality game. This game was promised to be a $4 million game because they got the money. They got the money for more $4 million. They made all these promises, and the game could even look as good as the beta.
Complained about those games. It's only because of the $4 million that was raised that anyone is putting up a stink.
Yes, because the $4 million. That's why people are angry about it. That's like Phil saying, well, the only reason why people are upset that I didn't do Product 7 was because they had to pay $12.50. I got $12.50 out of it. It's like, no, they're upset because they gave you money and they didn't get the product that they expected because they gave you money.
About Mighty Number 9, and it's unacceptable. If
you're unacceptable.
An objective reviewer, you have to review what's in the game for what you paid, not what everyone put into it via crowdfunding. And let's be real.
What if those reviewers were the people who crowdfunded? And this is kind of shitty, and this is the part that I really hate this review. I mean, yeah, I kind of spoiled myself through Dragon Killer, shout out. But, yeah, at this part, I really thought that this review was the worst review he has made. I mean, his reviews are kind of bad, regardless. But this and every other Nintendo game review he has done are the worst things that he has ever put out.
Still here. Those people who did invest in the game via Kickstarter, if you invested a certain amount of money and you feel that you didn't get what you deserved, especially if you're one of those people who your codes don't work and you can't play the game, or if you cannot play it on Wii U because it bricked your console, then you have the right to complain. But the vast majority of people who are hating on Mighty Number 9...
Complaining isn't a right, isn't a privilege. It is a right. I was about to say it's not a right. It's a right. It's not a privilege. You don't... The only time that I throw away people's opinions on stuff is if they say that they never played it. If they say, "Oh man, I played Mighty Number 9 and it sucks," then that's their opinion, and they could say like, "Oh, because it was budgeted with $4 million and all that." Now I could say if someone says like, "Yeah, I looked at the stuff that put out and it didn't look as good as the beta, so it doesn't look that good," then that's fine too, because that's a valid opinion. Because you're saying that you were disappointed by how the game looks at the final product, because you compared it to something that you saw before.
Right now are hating just for the sake of jumping on this drama bandwagon.
I love how this guy is saying it. The guy who calls himself the King of Hate says that, "Oh man, the hate makes me stronger." He does all these dramatic videos on his vlogs channel. Every other channel, he does a dramatic vlog. He's shitting on people who shitting on it just for the sake of shitting on it. He's kind of contradicting his point right here.
The $4 million game that could and then came out and wasn't amazing. I wasn't expecting an amazing game for $20 from a brand new indie studio. I think people basically expected too much from a new development team.
They expected too much. They got fucking $4 million and they expected too much. Okay.
Who I think overpromised and underdelivered on all of their Kickstarter stretch goals. But that doesn't factor into a...
Overpromise does factor because because a promise is a promise. It's like if I promised you guys, this isn't a real promise. This is an example. I don't want to get confused. It's like me promising, "Okay, guys, I'll show you my dick on camera," and then in the next video, it's like, "Oh yeah, oh man, nothing. I don't show you anything." I'm not gonna say like, "Well, I overpromised." Okay, guys, so it's your fault. You were expecting that I was gonna show you dick. I just overpromised, so don't complain.
Review score, what factors in is what I played, which actually wasn't so bad, and as a longtime fan of Mega Man, I actually very much enjoyed playing the campaign, despite some of the frustrations that I had. So all factors...
But I mean, all these people that are saying that were disappointed didn't say that, "Oh, this game was a piece of garbage." They never said it's garbage. I mean, there might be some people that say that, but most of the criticisms I've seen from this game is that the game doesn't look like it deserved $4 million. Like it didn't look like it used $4 million, and people are just saying basically it's a base game. So it doesn't sound like that people are saying that this game is garbage. They're just saying that they expected something that they could have gotten in a game with a smaller budget.
Considered objectively speaking, Mighty Number 9 is not a bad game. It's certainly not a groundbreaking, amazing AAA quality game, but for a $20 price...
I like how he always has to say that. It's like, it's not AAA. It's like, yeah, we already know. We're compared to other indie games, that's how every single person do that. There's an image where people are comparing this game to Skullgirls, Hotline Miami, all the other games, basically, that, with their budgets, and this game has the most budget, has the biggest budget, and it's the least appealing game out of all these other games that have a smaller budget. Okay, and by the way, Skullgirls and Indivisible are all hand-drawn games, so like the in-betweens, all that stuff is drawn by hand. It's not 3D rendered and all that kind of stuff like this game is. It's all done by hand, and they have a smaller budget than this game, and it looks better.
Tag from an indie studio, it's quite a damn good one, and I very much enjoyed it. For me, I see Mighty Number 9 as a first step in the right direction, proving you don't need a giant game publisher to throw millions...
This is the game. This is the game that does that? Fuck. No. Honestly, I'm showing my fanboyism right here. Skullgirls is the game, because, like, I've said this multiple times. Skullgirls is like the best fighting game I've played. It's top tier shit. If you disagree, then you're in the wrong channel, son. I got a fucking Skullgirls as my avatar. It's fucking Eliza. She's the best. Don't be dissing on her.
Of dollars at you and grant you their permission and all their time constraints in order to put out a game as quality as something that's been put out by them in the past. Mighty Number 9 is as good as any of the classic Mega Man games. The problem is people are being overly critical for unfair reasons.
Overly critical.
From my experience, I actually rate Mighty Number 9 a 7.5 out of 10, about 75%, with a few tweaks, with an improved graphical engine, maybe with a few other things, for example, the refinement of the absorption engine, which really isn't very effective in this game. If they could just refine...
Absorption engine? What?
A few of those things, this game could be absolutely great. But the problem is people aren't being honest because of the bullshit. In fact, the biggest dishonest thing on the internet right now that almost every major gaming news site has put out is saying that Keiji Inafune said, well, it's better than nothing. False. That's what the translator said on the live stream.
That's what the translator said. So, like, was he translating? Did he talk to this translator? How did he know that he didn't say that? Where is your proof, Phil? But okay.
Interpretation of what Inafune was saying on the stream, adding in Americanisms. That is
Americanisms. What? Dude, American isn't even a language, and he's saying Americanisms. Americanisms. Oh man. Oh God. His parents, after he said that, like, died a little bit more in the inside. They're like, oh, our boy said Americanisms. That's not a thing.
He said, obviously, he would have liked the game to be better. He's probably not 100% happy.
Where is this information now? What?
With the final product, just like all of us. But certainly it's not a piece of crap, and I'm tired of people shitting on it when they really don't have any grounds to. The bottom line
is, it's not like they
if
played
anything,
it.
This should be a lesson to those who want to invest in anything on Kickstarter. Understand that a game's final product is not going to be directly representative by how much money you throw at it, but instead on the actual ability of the game development.
So if I give someone, let's say I give someone $10 billion, and they give me a game that looks like this, how do you think I'm gonna react? this guy made $4 million. He couldn't have done something more with this game. I mean, he doesn't have to make a Call of Duty or anything. But and what is this? Look at this. More investment capital does not equal a better development team. Yes, it does. Because guess what, Phil? The people who are the best coders and the best, well, that guess what? They want money and they know that they're the best, so they're not gonna go for less. They're usually gonna go for more because they can. Because guess what, Phil? They know they can get away with it because they're the best. So if Kenji had a lot of money, he could hire more people that can work on this game and it would look better. But he didn't because he I don't know where the 4 million went. Because I'm not Kenji Inafune. I can't speak for him. But usually if I throw more money at something, it could be good because guess what? I could use that huge sum of cash and allot it to things like, oh well, if the gameplay is crappy, maybe I should put more money into people who will test it, who will develop the game and code it and all this kind of stuff. Maybe add more artists to the game so we have more in between artists so we have mouth moving and all that kind of stuff. So all that stuff adds money, Phil. You can't just look at $4 million and be like, ah, yeah, that's nothing. Like,
team. In this case, the development team of Mighty Number 9 were brand new. They were trying to implement ideas from a long.
They're brand new. They're right off. Kenji Inafune is a rookie apparently. Yeah, I mean it's not like that he had any experience in game development or anything, right, guys?
Time game creator. They didn't.
Dude, I know when Kojima's new game Death Stranding comes out. Oh, dude, it's gonna be like. If it's gonna look like this, it's gonna be okay. Okay, guys. If it looks like a PS2 game, just remember it's Kojima's first game. Okay. Well, again, after he left Konami, but it's his first game, guys.
Have the capability.
Him with Sony doesn't make any difference.
To make everything happen the way that they wanted to. They overpromised on the Kickstarter goals. They underdelivered. Okay, but that doesn't mean that they cannot make a better game in the future. But it's
dude, people are just upset because they took their money and they didn't deliver on their promises. If you guys gave me money, let's say that I opened a Kickstarter and I'm like, okay, guys, if you pay this much, if you pay me $50 million, I promise you, I'll show my dick on camera. And then you pay that much money, and then I just show you my underwear. It's like, you promised you showed me your dick. No, man. Hey, dude, you paid me money. I did the best I could, okay? Like, come on, really?
Seems like everyone has completely written these guys off. Enough is enough. I'm going to be honest, I like the game. I hope they do make a sequel, but at this point, with all the negativity out there, I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Well, they did kind of say that they would make a sequel no matter what, so there's going to be a sequel.
Goddamn shame.
A goddamn shame. A goddamn shame. This review was a goddamn shame. Let's look at the comments. Oh, man, I bet the one that, love how he says people online are complaining that the game is too hard. Then he goes on about how hard the last few levels are. People aren't complaining about the last few levels. They're not even getting that far, upping to 9 lives just to get past the robot masters. What? Are that bad platforms? Wow. Too many. Wow. Wow. This guy kind of went back into sucking Phil's dick, but oh, dude, he might have deleted it. Dude, he might have deleted that comment. It was a comment that was calling him out on the Americanisms, and it's gone. It's gone, dude. Dude, this is ridiculous. This review is awful. He shits on everyone for no reason. He shits on people who have valid criticism of this game, who might have trust issues with this guy, that seeing that he took $4 million to give him this game. I mean, it is an issue because if he ever kickstarts again, he's not gonna make that. He's not gonna make that much money again. He's not gonna reach a goal anymore. I mean, the only people that are probably gonna donate to him is this guy. So yeah, this review is garbage. His opinion of it is garbage. And to go from a guy who bashed Tim Schafer pretty hardcore about Broken Age, it's phenomenal that he did this 180. Like, goddamn. And honestly, look up Skullgirls if you want. Skullgirls Indivisible, donate to Indivisible. Donate to that game because that game looks sick. Looks great. Lab Zero has yet to disappoint me, even though they have like one game out that they released. But they at least delivered a game, and I really think that Indivisible's gonna be a great RPG. Thanks for watching this video. I think that's it. Yeah, see you. I might do the weekend preview this week, so there's that. See you guys next time, and hopefully the audio isn't messed up.